Hello, my name is John Brink, and you're watching a history of the BC forest industry. Thank you for joining us today. Our guest today is Mackenzie Kerr. Now, Mackenzie, an amazing young lady, and I'm sure she doesn't mind me saying that. We had her as a guest, I believe, Mackenzie, around the 20th of February.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Was a while ago, 4 or 5 months ago. And so there were a number of things happening as happened since, because it was in the early stages of COVID-19 that kind of changed all our lives. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you were affected by it as well. So tell me, so if I recall correctly, you were in the final phase of getting your bachelor's in forestry from in biology and subsequently in RPF and forestry from the University of Northern British Columbia, and you were hoping to complete that in September. So
Yes.
what happened in the period when we interviewed you first to today?
Sure. So, yeah, COVID was made schooling pretty difficult. So we ended schooling in mid-March, and they turned it to online very, very quickly, with very little preparation for everyone. We were just thrown into it, and so because of that, I had struggled with one of the classes, and I ended up failing it, and I had to retake it during the summer semester. And I shared that because I think that it's important to share. That it's a common thing, especially with the pandemic, right? So I think that we need to, share our weaknesses more often than just what you see online. So I retook that, and then I passed it again on during the summer. It was a 6-week summer course, and now I'm going back in the fall to finish 2 or 3 more courses in September, and hopefully I'll be graduating in December. So that was the plan in the spring, was to hopefully graduate by December, and then I just had one class that I had to retake in the summer, and now we're well on our way to being finished. But all of those classes will be online. So I've had to adjust my space at home and my life a little bit to learn better online, and use some of the resources that are available to me to help with that. I think a lot of students have trouble focusing at home when there's so many other things that you can be doing at home when you don't want to sit and study. So I am being prepared for that in a couple weeks in September to take my classes online and see how it goes. So
Yeah, the whole environment around your life changes really because of COVID. All of a sudden, going online from doing it live in person, you have to develop a whole new routine and a whole new discipline and all kind of new adjustments. And then, obviously, from here on forward, it really hasn't changed things for you all that much, other than in terms of your objectives and goals, but just kind of continuing on the effects of COVID on us individually, but also in a general sense. It's just amazing what it can do on a worldwide basis, something that's so quickly developed and then spread across the world, really from Europe to Asia to North America and Africa and other places. That changed everything from what we consider to be normal. And then adding to that what we see now, a bit of a reoccurrence in Europe, because either the disciplines have become laxer, or an example of the United States, where it has become quite political, and obviously with not good results.
yeah, definitely.
We are lucky, to be in Canada, relatively stable, and then in BC, in particular in northern BC. So tell me, how do you see it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it shook the world because we weren't prepared. I think that a lot of people got a little bit of a wake up call that, they need to have their plans in order, and hoarding toilet paper is not the way that we need to go. So I think that it kind of gave a sense of I saw a lot of people talking about food security. That was something that came up a lot because with people seeing that toilet paper was flying off the shelves
Yeah.
and meat prices were going through the roof, they
Yeah.
thought, okay, how can I, sort of prepare a little bit more? So a lot of people have gardens this year that didn't last. And it's amazing to see that. Lots of people at the farmers market. And that's where I was lucky to find a job this summer as a summer student, just as a summer job because I was laid off from a serving job that I got. So I have been growing all summer, growing vegetables, selling it at the farmers market, and trying to spread the word of food security as much as possible, because other than forestry, food security and agriculture is something that I'm very, very passionate about and grew up with my entire life. So
Yeah, and then at the same time, it puts a new uh, objective in terms of relying so much on traditional ways of the way we were doing things to kind of going back to the land and
yeah.
being more prepared, as you indicate, and so the new normal will be different and maybe not necessarily in a bad way. There
No,
are
I don't think so at all.
yeah,
Yeah, I think, as long as we're not letting people fall through the cracks and we're taking care of everyone. And, there have been some cases where people are falling through the cracks with the CERB and all of those kinds of things. So, but I think there can be, a silver lining of, there's a crow outside. There can be a silver lining of people, looking to food security and local agriculture, supporting one another. I definitely think that there's things, looking forward, adapting that we can do, but I think we need to be creative and innovative and adapt and not resist and try and go back to normal, because like you said, I think we need a new normal and it's going to be good. We just have to have this idea in our head of we can make it in a positive spin. So let's work on the future that we all want to see. And that comes with forestry as well. I think this is a time with all the curtailments and everything that happened because of COVID. I think it's the perfect time to talk about how we structure our forest industry.
exactly. So we had an amazing interview, at least in my mind, and I'm sure in yours as well, that the last time that we talked. And so I just kind of was hoping to kind of give a little bit of background on you from my perspective, and you can then correct me, and then
Okay.
you can start, continuing a conversation on other things. So the quick rundown of you is you were born in Prince George. You're still in your early 20s. You spent 9 years in the Yukon Territory, of all places, because of family attachment to the Yukon. Your dad, his family was in the Yukon, and you spent 9 years in the
Yeah.
cold of the Yukon
Grew
territories.
up there, yeah.
I was there for 5 years, actually, so I know all about that. So the then when you came back to the Prince George area, you have quite an attachment to the Prince George area as well, because the other half of your family was really from the Prince George area. And then you have an amazing individual that in your family, because the discussion that we had the last time, when I was kind of exploring with you as to, because of all the things that you already have done in your young age, and already laid an amazing foundation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But you were involved in politics, running as a member of parliament. For the I believe it was
The Caribou Prince George riding for the Green Party.
Caribou Prince George riding, and an amazing experience you had there. And then, the other part is that your interest in the forest industry, and I was wondering where the link was, because for me, my grandfather was a master carpenter, my dad was in the lumber, so I was going to go into the lumber. And then obviously you have this interesting attachment by a fellow of the name of Kurt Garland. And I hope to interview Kurt. He has indicated that he would in the next couple of weeks or so, because again, he's an amazing fellow. In the 55 years that I've been in the Prince George region, he always was here too, and was quite successful in the forest industry. A very entrepreneurial individual, very bright, very smart, and highly respected. And and had a number of sawmills, and is the founding individual of Lomac Trucking, and has another major investment, and that's Hester Creek, one of the biggest wine factories or manufacturing areas in Caledonia. So that all of a sudden to me became, okay, that was another stimulus for you to go in that direction, correct?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, forestry was talked about around the kitchen table, and then I had a tour with the Rotary program when in high school, and got to see what it meant to be in the forest industry, and had heard a lot about it growing up, and said, you know what, I am going to try this and go take my diploma at the college, and I really liked it. So there were certain aspects that I liked more than others, and that's why I'm focusing in on some things that I am really passionate about. But that was originally the path that took me this way.
Yeah, the other part about it, and we talked briefly about it when I talked to you in February, is that, and I feel very, very strongly about, having the College of New Caledonia. So where
Mhm.
most of our training, we can do here in terms of applied science or even further than that. And obviously then having the UNBC, as to what has become as the best small university in Canada, and that gave you the ability to stay in the north, get your initial training at CNC, and then transfer it into UNBC.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that was the plan, and now I'm almost done, and we'll see what doors open up for me as I finish my degree. But I am ready to say yes to everything that comes my way, because that's what I grew up learning from my grandfather and my mother and my father and my whole family. And they kind of put in my brain of you can do whatever you set your mind to. So I grew up very, very lucky in a family to be that supportive.
For sure. And then
Yeah.
if you kind of look back now, Mackenzie, is that, when you first made the decision to go to CNC to start that particular course that led you to, UNBC, and then graduating, I'm sure, in December, have things changed in that 4 or 5 years that you've been involved in that? Are there more people that you see going into the courses like that and have an interest in industry, as one question? And the other one is that do we see more male and females? The
Mm.
ratios are changing in the involvement in those jobs?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, I definitely see a lot of people, especially up here, um, in forestry, especially at UMBC. It's quite a large program. There's a lot of people in it. And that's really, really exciting to see that young people are interested in this. Also, in my case, I have found since going from the college to the university, I've leaned more towards environmental studies and learning about how we can make the forest industry more sustainable. And that's something that I have narrowed in on, that I know that I'm really passionate about and that I want to learn more about whenever I can. And I see that trend from a lot of people that I go to school with. They're they're working in the bush during the summer and then seeing what they want to change and putting their mind to it, and that's what they're focusing on during their career. And I think that's really, really awesome. I am seeing a demographic change as well. I mean, just our professors telling us, wow, this is not what the demographics looked like 20 years ago. Used to be mostly men, and now there's a lot of females. So I think that that's really exciting as well.
Yeah, and then the awareness in terms of being good stewards,
Yeah.
of the resource, and we are so fortunate here in Canada, but in particular in BC and the interior of BC. The forest industry and the interior, although it has been affected by the pine beetle pandemic. And it has become in the process somewhat smaller because there's
Mhm.
less fiber available right now for manufacturing due to that. But still, regardless of that, the industry is still very vibrant
Mhm.
and in transition, for where people are becoming more aware of that. We have to be more proactive in terms of growing more fiber per hectare and adding more social and economic
Mhm.
value per cubic
Yeah.
meter to that resource.
Exactly. Exactly. And so many people my age are really, really passionate about that. They're seeing that we're just making 2x4s, and that is not the most efficient way to be doing things in BC. We need to be focusing on, manufacturing in province and not just shipping it away and then buying the product for a higher price when it comes back. So yeah, there's a lot of job opportunities coming up as well, because even with COVID, people are still retiring. And right now, the average age of people that are in the forestry industry are going to be retiring soon. So there's going to be a big gap of people that are young people that need to fill those spots. So I was talking to some other friends that are in forestry the last couple of days to prepare a little bit for our interview and take their opinion as well. And the idea out there is that there are opportunities and jobs in the forest industry, even with COVID, because of people retiring. And all of those people know how important it is that we add more value per hectare to our forests. So, and you were saying social and economic benefits, right? And the like a holistic approach to the forest industry and not just the status quo that we are used to.
Yeah, and for your benefit, like on the ground, where we are, there's the Brink group of companies that bring forest products, and in particular the forest side of our company. We have also we do warehousing, logistics, and some other things. But the lumber side, we have an operation in Prince George, operation in Vanderhoof, one in Houston. All three of those operations are drastically short of employees. In fact, we are putting on a major drive to get resumes and find people to hire, and it likely will become more difficult, not easier. And our company, even today, we are, we employ about 400 people. We, in terms of volume of lumber that we manufacture, without harvesting any trees, but simply doing secondary manufacturing, we will double that volume in the next 2 years. The most difficult part of it is not finding the fiber for us in terms of further manufacturing. It is not finding a market for new products in new markets. It is finding a skilled or even an unskilled workforce is our largest issue today. We can hire right today 20 to 30 people.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen your sponsored ads all over social media looking for people to hire. So, I mean, I think that's really great too, because people don't think that during COVID right now anyone's hiring, but there's a perfect example.
Yeah, and it comes back. So let's together kind of walk through this, because you and me have already spent quite a bit of time together, and so we think alike in a lot of ways. And saying that, okay, we the people own the timber in British Columbia, and so we are really stewards in a way. And then the forest companies that operate in the province. And in the interior and down the coast have access to that fiber because of licenses that are in most cases renewable license that indicate a volume that allows the forest base to continue in the longer term, meaning a sustainable volume. Say if it took 100 years to grow a tree, then you only would harvest one. So that it always maintains the same volume, that we add the same volume as we curtail or that we cut and then further manufacture. Because of the pine beetle and the spruce beetle, to a certain extent, the volume has diminished. But at the same time, if I look at places like Sweden, which have virtually, for all intents and purposes, the same land base as we have, about 22 million hectares, they harvest substantially more volume from the same land base than we do. And obviously, when we want to change the industry, then a couple of things must happen. We must look at the policy that we have, so that the industry is competitive on an international basis, because otherwise we lose the investment. But then how can we be better stewards and do a better job of harvesting and growing additional fiber on a per hectare basis and use more of what is left behind into new and different products?
Yeah. I think it's a multi-pronged solution approach. There's so many different ideas. It's definitely not a silver bullet. I think looking to other countries is a good example, but they're hard to compare. I think the best solution right now that we could do if we had the political will, that has many, many benefits, including fire break, beetle break, habitat, like so many benefits, would be banning glyphosate, because right now that is in our Forest and Range Practices Act, because we have to hit free to grow standards in a certain amount of time. And we talked a little bit about this last time, because that's what needs to be changed. If that wasn't a requirement of to hit that free to grow in that certain amount of time, and companies were able to use examples like sheep grazing instead of, aerial spraying glyphosate, and use other avenues to cut some of that brush down, but leave more than we're taking right now, it would be the perfect solution to a lot of these issues that we're seeing of lack of forests, like lack of trees that we're using for forestry because of the pine beetle epidemic and the forest fires. Well, a lot of those are tied back to not having deciduous tree breaks. So I think that sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the benefit of our listeners and watchers, that what we are talking about, that is spraying that is being done in the forest, and the chemical is give it to me again. But
Glyphosate.
Collectively, and the idea of that is to suppress the broadleaves, so it gives the other species that we want to harvest, maybe pine, spruce, and other species, the ability to get to what they call the free to grow stage. And what you advancing is that let's not use that, let's find another way. May that be by grazing, or may it be by some other form, so that we allow the timber that we eventually want to use for manufacturing, the ability to get to the free to grow. Free to grow is critical in terms of how long does it take the tree to get to commercial levels. Should it be 70? Should it be 60? Should it be 50? And it's a huge impact on the ability to harvest volume and ultimately on manufacturing. Now, the other part I want to just introduce to you as well is that there are other ways as well, and I agree with the ideas that you have on it, is by introducing totally automated equipment that can work on a GPS basis on its own, identifying exactly the locations of particular trees for planting on its own, totally mechanical in huge areas, but also to bring it to the free to grow level by reducing the broadleaf, or creating an environment in which, again, trees would come to the free to grow. So if we had something combination between potentially mechanical and as well as others like grazing, that would hopefully then come to the same result.
Yeah, and I think we also need to not just look for solutions to take away the exact same amount of deciduous, right? Like, sure, we can look at other options of taking rid of them instead of spraying, but the point is we need to keep more, because it will make us more money in the long run by not having wildfires and pandemics with the beetles that we've seen.
Exactly. Exactly. So that part alone already is something that certainly needs to be addressed in some form.
Yeah. And that is a policy change. And that is why I ran for office, because the only way that you can change that is through policy at the federal and provincial level.
Correct.
So that is why we need the political will.
Absolutely. And so then, so then the next part is that saying that and it will take time to change the policy, but is moving in that direction. It may not be fast enough, but it is moving in that direction. Wouldn't you agree?
There are examples. Yep. The person that I was talking to this morning about this call, and I was getting a little bit more information and everything just to freshen up. She was saying there are companies in Prince George that haven't sprayed for 2 years, and instead they're using sheep grazing, and that's their alternative that they're looking at. And other companies are seeing that it's profitable, and those companies are still making money and starting to change their ways. So even without the policy change, companies are doing it. But it would be a hell of a lot easier if we had the political will and did it at the policy level, as well as companies doing it on their own.
And the key to that is public awareness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can pressure the company and say, I don't want to purchase this product from you if you behaved in this way. And that's, that's the control that the consumer has.
Now, believe it or not, Mackenzie, we're nearly out of time. Isn't it amazing?
It goes so fast.
So and we can sit here for 2 hours to talk together, because I love what you're doing. I love your passion, and obviously be following you closely. And, so
thank you.
And we will again schedule for you another meeting, hopefully early in 21, when you will have achieved your goals at UNB. And for me, as somebody that has been in the industry for a long time, I like your approach to it, and young people like yourself will give inspiration to other young people to follow what you're doing. I believe you're an extremely effective communicator. I think you have to do more of that, wherever the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
And
well, thank you. I mean, the goal is to have a bunch of people join me, because I definitely can't do it alone. So,
and that's for sure. And well, I as an older guy, I certainly will join you. I'm part of your team. That's for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, John.
Yeah. So in any event, again, I'm delighted having you on our show, and I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and then early in the new year, we'll schedule you for another session with us on an update on where you are, and at the same time talk a little bit more about the manufacturing side and the marketing side.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks again for being on my show. Thank you for watching us today. We were joined by Mackenzie Kerr, a young lady that has an amazing background and has a passion about the forest and everything to do with the forest and the industry. Actually ran as a member of parliament in the last election in her early 20s, and is currently studying at UNBC for a degree in the Bachelor of Science and becoming a registered professional forester. Mackenzie certainly will be one of the persons that will give direction to the forest industry as we go into the 21st century. Again, thank you for watching us today, and we'll see you the next time.